Welcome to Happily Divorced with Karishma. I've met countless women and men these past few weeks, separated, divorced, or silently breaking inside their marriages. Every conversation carries that same question: where do I go from here? And am I going to be okay? This episode is about answering that question, not through strategy, but through a different truth. We're talking about what safety feels like, real safety, when the rules, the roles, and the approval all disappear. Let's begin. Hello, friends. Welcome to Happily Divorced with Krishma. And I am so happy to be here today talking to all of you. And it has been a bunch of synchronicities the last few weeks. And the world is showing me divorcee after divorcee, and just a lot of people that are exactly where I was, frankly, 5 years ago. And it's interesting what is happening. I have a friend of mine that I connected with after years. I know her from 7 years ago in Orlando, and just interacting with her in our place of worship. She was talking to me and how she was separated with her husband, who I know. And I said, wow, like separated, huh? So is a divorce final? And she's like, no. And then it was like, shh, be quiet, Karishma, right? Like a lot of shame and wanting to be quiet around it. I met another person of another friend through a community some community work that I had, where I was reaching out to him after 6 years of meeting him last. And he talked about his new wife, and I talked about my divorce the last 5 years. And then he was just like, oh, wow, like, oh, by the way, my sister is getting divorced, and she's of the same religious community. And she was just like, he was just like, wow, I just salute you for your courage and for your bravery. And I know how hard it is as an Indian woman in letting go of the culture and letting go of the old identity and to step into a new reality. That was 2 weeks ago. Another woman that I connected with a few days ago talked about how she's separated right now, and she and her husband are amicably separated, really supportive of each other, where she's allowing space for him to connect with the kids and vice versa. And just a beautiful, healthy co parenting relationship. And what I wanted to just talk about today was just safety. Safety. And maybe I'm just talking to my Indian, South Asian women here. But those of you that are feeling like you are in fragmented relationships, disconnected relationships, separation, I just really want to kind of go back to basics here and talk about safety. And in my culture, as a woman, you just don't have value. And whether you do in 2025, you could say you do in your leadership roles and VP roles and executives and all the things, fundamentally, in a cultural stance, you don't have worth and value. Your worth and value is associated with marriage and family and husband. And I've seen this with divorcees, I've seen this with widows. And fundamentally, when that man goes away, the marriage goes away, a huge part of self goes away, identity goes away. And this isn't just unique to South Asians, but in a way, it's like that worth and value diminishes when the man is gone. And I just really want to support in breaking that facade today. Because, ladies, if you're listening to this, your worth and value is not based on the other. Your worth and value is based on you and who you are on the inside. Men, if you're listening to this, your worth and value, or your lack thereof of being in a family dynamic in the traditional sense, doesn't mean you're a failure. Your being worthy or not being worthy has nothing to do with the label that you chose, the label that you had. And it's time, my friends, that we start really seeing these labels as identity for the illusion that they are. Our labels don't define us, and they definitely don't define how worthy we are, don't define how competent we are. They don't define anything. It's just a label. Because guess what? If you're an executive and tomorrow you get laid off, tomorrow you're no longer an executive, doesn't mean that you don't have worth or value. It doesn't mean that your entire life is upside down. It may feel like it, absolutely, for a while, and divorce feels like it for a while. But what makes this journey so beautiful and so fulfilling is when you start to untether yourself from these limitations, from what like a marriage could mean, or what a label could mean, or what family could mean. And you start creating that identity of yourself outside of those roles, right? And, for me, one of the biggest gifts that I've shared throughout the podcast here, but I really want to iterate it here, is I started to realize who I was. I started to realize who I was when I wasn't a mom, a wife, a girlfriend, a business owner. And I really started to connect with the real me. And the real me wasn't any of those things. The real me is someone who's infinite. The real me is someone who is love. The real me is someone who is magnificent and beautiful and light and love. And if I'm those things, you are too. And the beauty is like really letting it all go and settling into the truth, settling into the fact that you've allowed those labels to define you. It's settling into the fact that there is sadness. And, as a society, we're so disconnected. We're so distracted. We're so used to picking up our phones the second things get uncomfortable. But the real act of courage, my friends, is when we settle into our truth, our real truth, of really acknowledging how we feel, saying, you know what, I feel really sad. I feel really broken. I feel really lost. I feel really purposeless. Like all the things that we're afraid of saying, because as a society, we've labeled them to be wrong or bad. It's time that we start acknowledging how we feel and really start settling into that human being part of us. The human being. We're beings because we're meant to feel. We're beings because we're meant to like just be in that state. Think of a baby. That baby isn't tethered by the decisions that he has to make, the 15 million to-do list items. The baby isn't thinking about that. A baby is like, all right, baby, I am eating, pooping, crying, feeling this, feeling that. There's just this level of like just beingness that is expressed as at a very young age. And somehow we start to lose that sense of self. We stop to create safety from just being into safety in production, safety in doing more, safety in hustling, safety in grinding, because on some level we feel like if I don't do those things, like I'm not loved. If I'm not doing those things, I'm not lovable. If I'm not doing those things, I'm not worthy. And then you tie this condition of marriage and society to that. Of course it makes sense, right? Because your whole life from when we were a little child, we were taught it's safe to follow the rules, to play it safe, to stay in the rules of our families, to stay in the rules of our culture, to stay in the rules of what is. And we're taught to stay in this small box. And then when we start venturing out the small box, at some point, our knuckles get hit, right, figuratively or literally, and we start getting reprimanded. We start being told no, like come back, sit back on your seat, sit down, do the work, go push harder, go get good grades. It must look like this, it must not look like that. And basically we've got someone outside of us our whole life telling us how we need to be. And not only that, not only how we're supposed to be, but also how we're supposed to feel. On top of that, we're only good enough when we get the good grades, when we make the good teams, and so on and so forth. And there's this whole lineage, this whole trap, and it doesn't matter what culture you come from. This is across all nations, all religions, all cultures. We're taught fundamentally that our worth and value only comes from when we are doing and in production mode, not when we're being. And it's time, my friends, that we break that illusion. Because this is why people don't leave their toxic marriages. This is why people don't leave their toxic jobs, because we are taught our whole life that safety and security comes from outside of us, in our roles, in our titles, in our bank accounts, in our marital status, and so on and so forth. And when we want to leave the marriage, we want to leave the job, we want to leave the things that don't serve us, where even though somebody outside of us may not be telling us don't do that. All the voices of the conditioning, the voices in your families, your societies, your friends, so on and so forth, they're all showing up and saying, are you crazy? Are you crazy? Are you sure you want to leave that man who doesn't love you back, or woman? Are you sure that you don't want to leave because, oh my God, what's going to happen to your kids? Are you sure that you're going to leave the toxic workforce because what's going to happen to you, and how are you going to provide for yourself? And essentially all of these voices are all there. And guess what? Those voices are voices of fear, insecurity, doubt. But just because they don't have what it takes to leave doesn't mean that you don't have what it takes to leave. And why is it that they don't have what it takes to leave? And let's pretend for a second that they wanted to leave. It's because they thought that that label is what created safety. They thought that having the job created safety. And as somebody who was burnt out, left her corporate careers years ago, burnt out from my business, have like literally made the 7-figure business, dissolved the 7-figure business, starting the business from scratch, all the things, I can tell you that safety and security is totally an illusion. And it really lies deep within us. Our safety isn't our bank account. Our safety isn't our titles. Our safety isn't our jobs. Our safety isn't our homes, our houses, our marriages, our roles in our companies. Our safety is within us. So the question you probably have is, Karishma, how do I create that safety and security? And the first step is acknowledging where you don't feel safe. Acknowledging, oh my God, I really don't feel safe right now. I'm scared. Labeling the feeling, labeling it, oh my God, I feel scared. The idea of leaving my marriage feels scary. The idea of leaving my company feels scary. The idea of leaving my job feels scary. Yes, I'm terrified and I'm scared. And the first step, the hardest step, is that vulnerability within ourselves to really acknowledge what's really happening. Oh my God, I'm scared. When you start having that inner connection with self, oh my God, like it's magical, because now you start acknowledging the truth, your truth. And when you start acknowledging your truth and shifting into the truth, that your safety and security is within you, like that's the first start of this beautiful journey. The second step is to really coming back home to yourself and aligning with yourself. And for me, it's about a feeling. It's about living our lives through how we feel, not what we think. And it's crazy because in this personal development space that I've lived in for a long time, the shift is going from a mental state of I need to think this, to be that, and thinking yourself into doing things, versus really aligning with our bodies, aligning with our intuition, aligning with our guidance, and saying, you know what, this doesn't feel good. Like my head tells me I'm supposed to be in this. My society, my friends, my parents tell me I have to be in this, but it just doesn't feel good. And the second we have that courage to start living, like really acknowledging how we feel and starting to align our lives from this doing state, and I must think this state to be safe state, to a being state, and really connecting with our bodies, connecting deep down. Oh my God, like I feel so stressed out. And I feel so scared. And this doesn't feel good. And when we start living from like moving from our head to our heart and coming back to feeling, that's the shift. Because then you're not pushing through life anymore. You're not trying to make it work. You're not trying to force solutions. You're not trying to force yourself to be in a job. You're like literally in that state of like, you know what, this doesn't feel good. And the next day you're like, it doesn't feel good. And the next day you're like, it doesn't feel good. And then at some point you ask yourself the hard question, why am I staying in this thing that doesn't serve me? Why am I connecting with these friends that don't serve me? Why am I seeing these relationships that don't serve me? And really asking yourself that hard question and being okay receiving the answers, because the answers are within you. And then finally having the courage to step away with trust. And I can tell you right now, you know, my corporate burnout led me to quit my corporate career in 2019. And I was devastated. Years ago, I was let go from a job. And basically, I was questioning my senior leader. He didn't like the questions. He thought I was too smart, too much of a firecracker. And I think he felt threatened. I can pretty much say that today. And I was let go. And it's so uncanny because I even look back at that incident and I was devastated. And, you know, my family was struggling at the time. My ex and I were struggling at the time. And within 2 months, I found a role that literally paid more, working half the time. It just came to me. I was just out there networking, connecting, and boom, opportunity fell in my lap and I was employed. And that employment took me a year and a half into a move to Dubai. And I never would have predicted this remote opportunity that paid me a great salary falling into my lap, working less than 20 hours a week while I literally moved a continent. And it served me during that entire piece. I left my marriage, and it was the greatest act of self love to choose myself over the label, to choose myself over the conditioning. And I was scared, right? I was scared. Oh my God, what are my kids going to do? How are my kids going to be? And what's amazing is my wish, my dream was that one day my kids experienced what a happy home felt like. And today, not only do they have one happy home, they have two happy homes. And all I could control was my happy home. And I dreamt in my heart of hearts that one day they would see what healthy love looks like. And I have that today. And my partner's my best friend. I'm sitting in his townhouse right now, recording this session. And there's a deeper connection that I've never experienced before. But it's when I had the courage to leave and the courage to choose myself in leaving all of these things that didn't serve me. That's when the miracles happened. That's when the magic happened. That's when the universe was like, hello, what are you waiting for? I'm waiting for you. And creating that path of safety from within is what allowed me to create everything that I've ever wanted and then some. So I want you to take some time, my friends, just to connect within. What are you holding on to that doesn't serve you? Why are you holding on? And what if you could take one step today to really be honest with yourself, to really go there and be okay with the sadness, be okay with the tears, be okay with the overwhelm, be okay with you as you are. And just like open your palms to the universe and be like, I let go. I let go of control. I surrender completely. God, show me what I need to do next. And I promise you, those signs will come from the universe, the next right thing to help you come back to your heart, to help you start aligning with your soul, to start creating that next path that is peaceful and that is absolutely right for you and that feels fun, joyous, and free. Thank you for listening.